Well, welcome to the Growing Money with Sean Trey's podcast. I have a really interesting guest with me today. Now, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you, Sean, for inviting me on your podcast today. My name is Michelle Tascoe, and I am a financial life coach. Oh gosh, I've been coaching now for 15 years. I coach clients all over the country, and I help my clients with mainly three things: creating a budget that actually works, getting out of debt, because that is the number one thing that keeps us stuck with our money costing us money. And I also help my clients buy their first home, because I think it's so important to learn ownership, stewardship, and leadership with your finances. So that's what I do. I love it. And I'm so happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, I found you by searching on Yelp. I was looking for people that had great reviews, and because I figured you can look online and there's lots of people online, but I wanted someone and talk to people that other people are saying, this person really helped me out. And that was one of the reasons I found you. And I wanted to ask you right away, because one of the things that popped up right away was your testimonial on your website. It was your own story. And if you don't mind me reading it, I would love to read this out. And I started financial coaching in 2010, and I was in a place in my life where I turned my financial situation around from going from nearly $70,000 in credit card debt with 4 credit cards and collections, a car repossessed, to becoming credit card debt-free, buying 2 homes, paying off my own car in less than a year, and recently purchasing a BMW cash. How did you do it? What was your process to turn things around so dramatically? What is it? What's your secret?
I'd love to say that someone rescued me and gave me a whole lot of money. That's really what most people think, because there's this lottery mentality that we have. Yep. If I just made more money, then I would be able to solve all my problems. So really what happened in that time frame is I found personal development. I've gone through education. I got my bachelor's degree in business, but it's so funny that finances are not taught in the classroom, in fact. And of course, growing up, for most families, they're not taught around the dinner table. And so what really needed to happen for me was a series of a few steps, understanding that making money is actually easy. I had this mindset that making money was really, really hard. And then from there, I also had to shift my way of being, shifting my way of being from impulsive to intentional, shifting my way of being from reactive to proactive, shifting my way of being from this, I would say, out of control to in control and sound. And then I also had to learn to shift my mindset from scarcity to abundance, my mindset from money comes and goes to no, money comes and grows. And so when I started to understand, I'll say, the psychology in my own mind, my own way of thinking, then the number one person that changed was myself. And when you start to shift your internal dialogue, then your external life starts to shift with you. Because all of us have the same 24 hours in a day, and it's a matter of our choices through discernment, how we make decisions, our identity, who we are in the world and how we show up, and also what it is that we want. And I was in the impulsive way of spending, wanting things that were instant gratification type of things. And so, of course, because I didn't have a plan for my money, other people had a plan for my money for me. It was restaurants, it was shopping, it was, I'll pay for this for you. And it was, it was not anything that gave me any type of long-term success. And so as I started to really behave completely differently, take different action, all of the resources were actually at my fingertips that I just didn't know I had access to. And then I started making more money. I started to hold on to more of my money, because truly, it's never about what you make that matters. It's about what you keep that actually matters, what you hold on to. So there's a lot, really, really meaty right there. But I hope that
No, it's
there's
awesome.
golden nuggets that you caught from that.
Yeah, there was a ton of that in there, and a couple things that you said that I've heard people speak to that before as well. That the idea is that you, again, people make money, but then it's out, and then there's a great book that I'm reading right now. I can't even remember the title. It was so good, but the author talks about how there are many people who are rich but not wealthy because they get money and that money is immediately gone into things, and they might be making a large salary, and yet they feel like they're constantly insecure. They feel like they're constantly on their tiptoes, or just in a danger zone with money in some way. And it's really interesting too that I've heard that before. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And it's such a great concept. But then, when push comes to shove, people are sitting there going, oh, but I want that. And I sit there and I worked for a long time teaching children. And one of the most basic things that you have to work with any child in your classroom are wants versus needs. And, you sit there and you look at a kid and the kid's like, I want Sally's toys. And you're like, yes, I'm sure you do. But it's not yours, first of all. And second of all, you don't need that toy. Well, I want to do this. You don't need to do that. And yet it seems simple, but for us as adults, we still have a hard time discerning our wants versus needs. We still have a hard time kind of getting those impulses under control. What were some of the ways that you found this new psychology? What were some of the ways that you started training yourself? What did you do to instill this new mindset in yourself?
Absolutely. So oftentimes, of course, all of us have these desires, and we want what other people have. And there's nothing actually wrong with that. There
Right.
really isn't. I think that what most people don't consider, though, is how do I get it? How do I earn it?
Ooh.
How do I
Ooh.
create the resources um, to reward myself with this? And that's what changed for me. So at that time when you read my bio or testimony, we had bought 2 houses. In the last 12 years, we've bought 9, and we flip houses.
That's awesome.
And so I remember also in the very beginning, the idea of wanting to take my family to Hawaii was like, oh my gosh, this would be so amazing. We're a new family. I've got my little son, my husband. I want to take my family to Hawaii. I want to be able to do that myself. And instead of putting it on a credit card, which is an easy swipe, I created a small business where I bought clothes from downtown Los Angeles, put them in consignment stores of friends that I've made relationships with. And within the year, I made enough money doing that, on top of the things that were already taken care of, to take us to Hawaii. Now, what did that do for me? Well, it showed me that with a little ingenuity and a bit of rolling your sleeves up and getting to work, I found another income stream to make some extra money. And because I've had 4 credit cards and collections, my car was repossessed. I can't say I had trauma around credit cards. I just knew that, been there, done that, that's not the answer. And instead of putting something on a card to have the experience of the guilt and the shame and the, oh gosh, now I got to pay this card down because of the instant gratification, now I had something that would continually bring in a certain level of income on a monthly basis to fund my fun. And I believe that most people don't think about, okay, how can I be resourceful? That's why I pointed out earlier that I really had to make the shift in my thinking that making money is easy.
And I was going to come
I
back to
think,
that because that's something that I want
yeah,
to ask you about, because
yeah,
a lot of people have a very pervasive idea that it's difficult. How did you come about with this mindset that making money was easy? What was the thing that kicked this off, and how did you start really instilling that in, drilling that into your mindset?
yeah. Well, I was one of those people because I had a mentor and her husband said, oh, yeah, making money is easy. And I thought, what are you talking about? Making money is so hard. I don't even know, like, who do you, where did you read that? What smoke are you blowing right now? And then I had to ask myself the right questions. Why does this person say that making money is easy? Well, I see their lifestyle. I see their work ethic. I see the multiple things that they're doing. And I took on the thought pattern, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. If they can learn it, I can learn it. If they can figure it out, I can figure it out. And then that shifted the, we'll say, locus of control back in my court, where I then sat in the captainship of whatever vehicle and my life that I was driving. I like the analogy that you can't steer a parked car. We have to be in motion. And in the series of being in motion, then you'll realize what are the things that actually could work. And then you start to expand your mind, and that mindset shift starts to happen. It's the shift from why me to why not me. It's a shift of this happens to me versus this is happening for me. It's a mindset shift of I'm just trying to get through my day on the 405 freeway, because that was my commute at that time, to how do I get from the day? And I believe that's really important, because if you don't start to shift the way that you think about things, you'll never see the opportunities around you, and you'll never give yourself the opportunity to be your best self and to go beyond what you've done before. And I think that turning point helped me so much, because when I think about all the things that I have wanted since then, it's more about, well, how to figure out the path to get there. We're in this place in the present. I teach my clients this all the time. We're at this place in the present, and oftentimes most people look to the past as to evidence of it not working, and then evidence of it failing for other people, or a failed endeavor or whatnot. And so then they keep repeating their past in their present, and they get stuck in this like downward spiral.
Yeah.
I learned, and I teach, let's start with the future you. Who is a 2.0 version of yourself that you get to level up to in ways of being, thinking, and even feeling, which in my opinion is relationship with money. And from that place that you're identifying, what are the things that you need to do today to create that tomorrow?
I love that.
So then what occurs is that you're in this perpetual cycle of always propelling forward, instead of on a Peloton, just pedaling but not getting anywhere. So that's what happened for me. And now I believe without a shadow of doubt that making money is easy.
You tapped on something there with the Peloton. I was talking to my wife tonight, and I said, I see people, and I've felt in times in the past like I'm on a treadmill, like, this movement, whether it be, and we were talking about it in terms of growing media channels, and for the idea of sometimes you go at things the same way again and again and again, and you expect different results. And the reality is maybe you need to find ways to adapt. All right, well, if we are on this treadmill, if we are just spinning our wheels, what can you do differently to change the game? What can you do differently to create opportunity? What can you do differently to see what's happening around you and embrace the fun? There was one time, because I've worked in social media and videos for so many years. And one of the things that I learned, and this is something I would tell any company I worked with, you plan as best you can. You put out a great video. You come up with an awesome script. But the reality is sometimes the thing that you film on the fly, that it just happens to be there in front of you, you're like, hey, well, we got a camera. Let's try to do something here, ends up being the thing that just absolutely changes the game for you. And one of the things that I love about that is it takes being open to what's happening now, and it takes being open to looking at the world around you and seeing what opportunity there is in front of you, because there's always opportunity. There is always opportunity for growth, for advancement of some sort. But again, it takes that shift in mindset to be open to see it,
Yeah, absolutely. I love that for you because, I think that oftentimes, especially with what you're saying around like the growth of social media, I think that if people tend to, I'll say, automate it or be robotic, and I think we live in a day and age where it's really about energetics. It's about like, how can you really connect with people? The funny thing is with my coaching business, it's the exact same way. I thought, okay, well, if I had marketing, or if I worked with enough people, if I asked as many people as I knew, who needed help, because I think that truly everyone needs a financial coach. And I'm biased there, but I've also seen it because I do anywhere between 800 to 1,000 sessions a year. And what I realized is, how can I be the very best at what I'm doing and create the best results, because the results will speak for themselves. And then where can I place myself on the internet where I'm the one that's searchable? Mm-hmm. So I have leads, inquiries, requests that come in on a daily, weekly basis, whereas someone else may be pounding the pavement and knocking on doors. And why is that? It's because when you begin to position yourself for full visibility, which I think is also important with finances, to have full visibility, then yes, you're the one that's found. You're the one that's being reached out to. I think you're in Vietnam, if I remember correctly, and you found me. Yeah. Right. And so did the Dr. Phil show. So did Vanity Fair. So did The Atlantic. So did Chelsea Handler. And I know that facts tell, but stories sell. And why do stories sell? Why do testimonials sell? You read my testimonial in the very beginning. Yep. So maybe part of this is a little bit for those who are coaches and want to grow their business, apart from the financial content that we're covering.
For sure.
Stories sell because it creates me toos. Stories sell because there's a little bit of, I'm experiencing that, and if she can help that person, maybe she can help me. It provides hope. We live in a day and age where we all need hope. And we want to trust the person that we're seeking a solution from. But the number one thing is, do we get that feeling of hope with them?
When I read your testimonial, the words that popped into my head were hope. How do someone do this? Because when you open up the internet and there's this story, you too can get this. Listen to this guy who, father from Chicago, starts side hustle, now makes $400,000 per year. You see these stories, and they're awesome, they're beautiful, but like, you sit there and go, how can I find the hope to attain that? And it's a hope thing, that we want hope to say, when a person reads a person who is sitting in student loan debt sits there and reads this going, how can I get there? How can I pay off my debt? When a person, I was thinking the other day about someone on a weight loss journey, right? And we always like to read the stories about people who succeeded, and you're like, wow, great job, I'm so awesome, and it sounds so easy. But the reality is that in the journey, they had to work, to go through the steps, but also to find hope. And so that's where, for me, I'm so excited to hear you talk about hope. And because that was exactly what I picked up when I read your bio, was this idea of hope.
I think I'm feeling it in my heart right now, so that's why I'm pausing. I think that we know when we're being sold or when someone is actually being genuine. Mm-hmm. You can read it because there's a formula to copy. Pain point, solution, benefit, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very like one-dimensional. And when someone really does share their story truthfully, authentically, from a place of true transparency, there's something that cannot be manufactured in it.
Yeah.
And I think that first, what copy would call, okay, what's your hook? Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, well, what's your heart? What's your heart? And that is what resonates. It was so funny. I was texting this morning with a company, and I'm like, is this AI? Because it doesn't sound, and he's like, no, I'm a real person. I'm like, oh, okay, because you don't know nowadays. It's so wild and so weird. And so I think that a couple of things take place. One, is there heart in what it is that you're saying? Are you writing from the heart? Is there wisdom? And then from there, is there something that I can connect with what you're saying? And I think social proof is so important for all of us. And that's why testimonials are important. And I barely even scratched the surface of asking people for testimonials. In the 15 years I've been coaching, I'll just ask here and there when I feel it. But apart from that, then there's the actual process and how you can, I see, become a client. I think that that's very important. I think that it's a disadvantage to have somebody fill out a funnel form and all of that. That's just me. I'm high touch, not as high tech. I just want to get on the phone with you and talk with you and hear about everything that you're experiencing and feeling and how it's affected this and that and where you're at. And I really do want to know, because then we can see if I would be a good fit. But more importantly, I want to encourage you. I really just want to encourage you to start with, and then let's figure out the mechanics. Yeah. And from there, then I want to know, okay, well, how soon do you want to solve your situation? Because there's urgency, there's timing, there's trust that needs to happen. And it's almost like this leap of faith that occurs. And I think that's why I work with so many people. I think last year I started 82 new clients on top of my regular clients that I see often. And I don't know, some people just will say that I don't know that somebody like you was out there. I'm not going to put you in a cookie cutter program. I'm not going to give you a get rich quick kind of experience. I'm going to go to the heart of where you're at. We're going to break down first vision, and then we'll go into actually looking at your numbers. And I will do the majority of the heavy lifting with you, because that's what true coaching is. So if it was weight loss, if it was like become a real estate investor, if it's, start your own business and work for yourself from home. I think we've got to be savvy enough to see if we're being sold or if we really have a vehicle that is tailored to just about anybody. I think the problem, and we're going on a different road, but this is what's coming to mind for me. I think the problem is that in marketing and coaching, unfortunately, there's always these like really high ticket purchases that, have some type of expiration date. And I think it's sad, to be honest. I think it's a money grab, and I don't really know if the quote unquote promise and the copy is backed up by somebody that truly will guide them to a solution. Because why I've stayed with one-on-one coaching is when you start to go one to many, I've experienced, because I've tried it many times because I just want to help more people, it starts to dilute the impact and the learning, and it starts to dilute the true transformation and results that are meant to happen for the other person, for the client on the other side. So lots of answers in different forms for your question.
No, it's awesome. Coming back to your 3-step process, you said step 1 was working with people on getting a budget. What are some of the things that you do when you come to someone and you start looking at the first step in this journey?
Yeah, well, I actually take people through 5 steps. Those are like most likely like the 3 outcomes. So I could just share it right here, because I think that, I would hope that by understanding the methodology that I've created, that it'll give someone the zoomed out version of the way to approach, where they're at. So number 1, I always start with a session called Vision. In Vision, there's the idea that there's a 2.0 version of life that you're wanting to create, the needs and the wants, which is like, I want to be living this place. I want to drive this. I want to pay off this debt. I want to be able to have this much money in the bank account. I want to be able to take my family on a vacation. I want to play guitar. I want to travel the world. I want to have all the experiences. I've heard it all. And it's beautiful, because this is what motivates us. It propels us forward to want to be able to do the things and enjoy life. On the flip side of that, which I believe so many people miss, is who is a 2.0 version me? And that it goes back to what I shared earlier with have the future goals and then ask yourself, who do I get to be today to create that tomorrow? Because it's the 2.0 version of yourself that will create the 2.0 life. And in so doing, I break it down into 3 areas: being goals, mindset goals, and energy goals. I shared that earlier in the beginning of our conversation. So ways of being are super important because it's anchored in values and character. It requires us to be more responsible, to be prepared, to be consistent, to be disciplined, to be organized. Those are usually the top 5. And then for others, it's like, I want to be intentional. I want to be generous. I want to be present. I want to be aware. I want to be confident, and so on and so forth. And from there, then okay, that's how I get to show up. In mindset, 2.0 version is realizing, well, what's the old way of thinking that I've been thinking that I've got to shift to this new way of thinking? Because that's the thinking between my ears that keeps me stuck. Money is evil, or I don't know how am I going to get there, or the scarcity idea, or but I want this now, so I have this mindset to just buy it because I don't know what tomorrow will bring, versus thinking about the long term, versus thinking abundantly, versus thinking that you can do it, versus thinking intentionally with a plan, versus having a mindset of certainty instead of uncertainty. And then with energy, I think that with our feelings and emotions, this is really about our relationship with money. So how do you feel right now? And what's the energy that you want to shift? Some people even feel it on their chest and their heart, in their stomach. They just feel nervous all the time. Usually what I sense when we go over this that comes up is I feel anxious. I feel overwhelmed. I feel unsure. I feel stressed. I feel pressure. I feel in the dark. I feel unprepared. And where I really want clients to get to is this idea and understanding and identifying that they want to feel confident, that they want to feel empowered, they want to feel at ease, at peace, and flow. And really, at the heart of it is they want to feel free. They want to feel that freedom, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're clear with way of being, which is in many ways identity, and you're clear with mindset, which is how do I think about this moving forward, and then you're clear about your emotions, which is how do I want to feel about this eventually, then you understand what the difference would make. Because oftentimes when I ask the golden nugget question, okay, what difference does it make for you to be this way and think this way and feel this way? And it's like they have a moment of like exhale, and then they realize, oh, everything would change. Mm-hmm. Anything could be possible.
Yes.
And then you have hope. You have hope, which is so beautiful because just in a few minutes of conversation, they found hope. And they stopped operating from their present place of circumstances and context of issues, problems, things that are not working. And they experienced in that moment a possibility of, oh, things are working. And I'm this better person, better version of me. And that's the person that, as I operate from that place, that I can actually operate from discernment and intention and follow through. And I'll actually be able to reach the things that I want in life. So there's just that first session with clients.
I remember one day when I was living in LA, and I was dealing with some stress, and I had a tough couple months. And I remember I was flying up to see my family in the Bay Area. And when I got on the airplane and we took off from LAX, we flew out over the ocean, heading up toward the bay. You turned right up past El Segundo, and we flew up the coast. And I could look down, and I saw exactly where my house was. I just looked down, and I was like, wow, all of that stuff seems so small. We sometimes get that mindset of being able to rise up above it, and you get into that place, and you're like, whoa, I feel hopeful right now. I feel like anything could happen. So that's amazing. Where do you go from there? You have your vision. What are some of the next steps?
Yeah. So then as soon as we have vision, then we go right into the mechanics of the numbers. Why? Because to really be confident with your finances, you've got to be competent with your numbers. To really be confident with your finances, you've got to be competent. And when we do the mechanics portion of it, as we dive into that, so session 2 typically is visibility. In visibility, we're operating we're taking care of 3 things. Number one, we're leveraging technology, because it's so important when in this day and age to shift from the checkbook and shift from scribble on paper and shift from data entry of, it's a lot, to leveraging technology where all the accounts are connected in one place, and then you can pull that data onto a spreadsheet so that we can manipulate the numbers, because we're going to do 3 things. We're going to categorize every transaction for the last 90 days. I like 90 days because no 2 months are alike. And I do this methodology of looking at the actual transactions from all of the accounts because, well, most people don't even remember what they ate yesterday, you know?
Right.
So how am I going to ask somebody, well, what do you think you spend on food delivery? And what do you think that you spend on groceries? And, you know, you'll just be looking at somebody with deer in headlights making some numbers up. And that's not true budgeting. So that's why I never believe in a worksheet that you just, you know, fill out. So we'll categorize all the transactions. We're going to audit. The reason being is because of subscriptions, software, memberships, streaming, applications. We are bound to have been paying for 2 Peacocks or 2, you know, Hulus or something that you clicked on that was $1 and now it's like $15 a month and you realize you're not even using that and all of that. So there's always holes in the bucket where we're leaking money. And so sure enough, we'll find those as we audit. And then the last is we'll make a list of all of the one-time yearly, because it repeats every year, expenses. And that way, you can never say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Christmas already. Well, Christmas comes every December and it's a surprise. You put it on a credit card. You can't say, oh, my auto registration is due. There goes my savings. Well, you know that was never true savings because you really needed to have this bill that comes once a year because, you know, in most states it's yearly. Some states it's every other year and whatnot. And so when we have that type of clarity around that list of doctor's appointments or birthdays, the vet bill, that's always a quote unquote surprise, vacations, home repair, now you're starting to shift from the reactive way of looking at your money and addressing those to put on a credit card to figure out later, but you're only paying the minimum payments and the credit card, you know, keeps stacking, to having this proactive approach of, okay, I know these are coming down the pipeline. I better set money aside for it ahead of time. So with that, what I love is now we have a nice map of truly your own personal numbers. It's like if I was a doctor and you came into my office, I'm going to run, you know, tests and I'm going to see, okay, this is where your blood is at. This is, you know, where your sugars are at. I really want to see under the hood, like a mechanic, to see what's going on.
Yep.
And so that's session number 2. And then from there, through like a formula, pivot table, I can create a snapshot of, on average, here's the money coming in, and on average, here's the money going out. Because the averages matter, because then it really allows you to shake down the numbers and see, wow, based on our reality of spending, we're in the hole $1,500 a month. No wonder we're never getting out of credit card debt. Yeah. So that's what takes place. Session 3, if you want me to keep on going.
I'd love, I'm soaking it in. This is awesome.
You're learning, soaking it in? Okay, good. Hope everyone else that's listening is soaking it in too. I find this quite fun. So session 3 is about structure. I think that in life, we gain freedom through structure.
I love this. I love this.
Yes. When there's proper structure in the form of a budget, and for those of you who don't like the idea of a budget because it's constricting, although we're always in charge of what we make things mean. So it can be constricting or it can be freeing. You get to choose the meaning behind it. Call it a spending plan. Because that's also, you know, you should have a plan for your spending. Then we can go through a real-time exercise where you're saying, okay, wow, I had no idea that Amazon is $600 a month. What do we buy on there? Yeah. And so then we can intentionally put down a number. Okay, based off of what I actually know that I need. And psychologically, I have seen it time and time and time again. When you're actually intentionally looking at what you're spending, you will actually say, this is just what I need. I need these things. Because again, if you don't have a plan for your money, someone else will have a plan for your money for you. And then when we shake the numbers out, and what you really wanted was that trip to Hawaii or that trip to Bora Bora or whatever it was, then you'll say, well, actually, I don't need to buy that extra pair of shoes. I don't need that extra Starbucks. I don't need, the DoorDash, food delivery, this and that, because I would rather have what I really, really want, which is this. And that's how we plan the numbers out. I think that is very therapeutic. It's very realistic. It's doable because the numbers don't lie. It's so black and white. And then we can take our own emotion out of it. And then we can be in I'll say in tune, or I have a coach that says commune with the numbers. That we're so connected with the numbers that we realize how to actually get our true wants, and be also taken care of with our needs, if that makes sense.
I love that.
What do you think?
I'm loving it because one of the things that I found is that I'm a black belt in martial arts, and I trained for years. I'm a judo black belt, and I've also studied Muay Thai. One of the things that I realized early on, and I had a great teacher who was all about structure. I had this one kid that I met from the Kodokan in Japan, and he was so good. And he trained the same throw thousands and thousands of times. And every single day he did the same structure again and again and again. And he was always crack up, and he's like, you guys learn all these different techniques. He's like, we learned like 3. And I said, well, but he says, but I'll get you with that one technique. He's like, I'm good at it, because it was this structure that was there every single time. And one of the things that happens is when you are able to put that structure into place, once you get so used and lean into the structure, it gives you the flexibility to then be more free, to more creative. But without it, my daughter is learning the piano. And one of the things that we do is we set aside 30 to 45 minutes, more like about 45 to 50 minutes a day, where we sit down and I write. I work on the book that I'm writing, and she spends time practicing piano. And one of the things that she's like, well, I just want to play. And I said, we can, but we also have time dedicated to structure so that you can just have it. We do our warm up, then we do this. And what at first she was really resistant to it. But after time went on, the structure allowed her to find her freedom, to play, to have more experiences, because that structure created a framework. So yeah, you're speaking my language right now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I have a background in jazz, dance, ballet, and modern, and there is always that technique of the pointed toes and, finding your center and the balance and all of that, because through it, then you have the freedom to flow and you have the freedom to dance and express and be fully self-expressed. So I am with you there. So yeah, this is so juicy and so good.
Love it.
Freedom through structure.
Where do you go next?
Yeah. So after we have structure, then what comes next is strategy.
Yeah,
strategy without structure has no anchor in what can actually be possible, in my opinion. Because I think oftentimes when we read books and we listen and we're being bombarded with all of this strategy, but the tips, the tricks, and all of that. But I think that if there is no foundation of where to start with, then it's hard to implement any type of strategy, because you don't have an anchor in this well-oiled machine that you've created to try out certain strategies and then come back to home base, so to speak. So in strategy, depending upon who I'm working with, we're either getting out of debt, we are looking to buy a home, or we're doing both, or we're looking at profitability of a business. And gosh, this is so important. Just like the methodology or idea of it's not what you make, it's what you keep. I have worked with countless businesses where, yes, they can put up the numbers, 1.7 million revenue, 2.4 in revenue, but that doesn't impress me, because the cost of making that 1.7 is 90%. So you're only taking home 10%. Somebody that has a regular, 9-to-5 job with benefits has more freedom and is taking home more money than you. So Profitability is key. And then I also look at cash flow, not just for a business. I've taken the idea of looking at cash flow within a business and I've adapted it to someone's personal finances. Why?
Nice.
Because yes, there's the things that we spend on a normal day basis, but then there are those on the opposite end of a cash injection where you get a bonus or something like that. There's a cash draw. Some people have houses where their property taxes are not impounded, so they're paying that 5, 10, 15, depending upon how big your house is, twice a year. And that money has to come from somewhere. Or there's the Christmas, or there's the vacation, or there's, your cousin's wedding that you've got to go to, or whatever the case may be, the braces, the summer camp, and all of that. Yeah. So I want to show somebody based off of what they're making and what they're spending normally, when they need to spend these bigger chunks that are coming, through the year, which they know, where is their cash flow at? And then what do we need to leverage? So that's also very, very key in strategy. It's so wild. I think about this. I've helped so many people buy houses and I'm not even a realtor. And it's fascinating to me that the number one thing that stops people from buying a home is not realizing that they could actually afford it and that they have the numbers that if they just tweaked just a couple of things, that they could have the credit score and the down payment and the financing to actually be in a home that over time, depending upon where you live in the country, will still appreciate in value. And that's freedom, isn't it? The American dream to have your own house and shift away from that renting mentality where you're renting your clothes, you're renting your car, you're, renting your furniture and you're renting your home. And there is like this false idea of, success because it looks like you own everything, but you really don't. Yep. So that's the strategy part, different for each person.
Well, I love that. And I love that the structure and it comes and the strategy comes. I was talking to my daughter yesterday because she has this newfound love of chess. I didn't introduce that to her. It's something that the kids at her school like to play it. And we were talking about that. And one of the things too is we were looking at long-term goals versus, shorter-term goals, because looking at this and then finding the strategy to implement that. But, you also then have to have the structure to play the game. How does each piece move? How do these things fit together? And then after that, you start working the strategy to accomplish things. And she was like, do we do the same thing every time? And I said, not necessarily. We always will have these different goals that we're working on. And yet we still have the large goal. Your larger goal for chess would be the checkmate, and, safety, power, whatever it is with, freedom, that it is with your financial is your larger goal. Then working that strategy sounds awesome. And I'm excited to hear more about what step number 5 is.
Yeah. And right before I go into step number 5, you touched on safety and power, which is very interesting because my approach to coaching, whether I'm working with a woman or a male, is different. And when I'm working with couples, it's also different. I find that women are really motivated and desire to be seen, to be heard, and to feel safe. So having visibility around the finances is super important because they want to see everything. And then also being able to talk about finances, that's the being heard, is very important as far as a marriage is concerned. And then the safety is the financial security. You just want to feel like we're going to be taken care of. Now, on the other side, I find with my male clients, they really desire to provide, to procreate, have kids, grow a family, and then to please, which is, I think, every male, and I would hope, every male, when you're married to someone, you're always thinking about your wife. Everything that you do is for your wife and your family. And I think that's so important to acknowledge because some women don't get that. They don't realize that all the things that they're doing and why they work so hard is really to create this life. And then that ties into providing. And there's this interesting dynamic between, especially nowadays, where I have a lot of clients where the wife makes more money than the husband. And there is this interesting dynamic of not feeling that they're really the man of the house. And so there is, in coaching, we unpack this and work through it and realize the different, I'll say like ways of contribution and support and authority in each position. And so the power is really important depending upon what you're motivated by. So I kind of just plant that seed for those that are listening, that start to like reflect on where you're at with your spouse and what's that dynamic with how you're handling your finances. Because I believe that, you know, we operate as a unified front. We're a team. We're doing this together. You're better together than apart. And I never really say this to clients. I just go with what, you know, because every household is different. But I really see the struggle when finances are separate in couples versus when finances are combined. We could probably dive into that on another conversation. But there is a unity where then it's not tit for tat. And there is a synergy and a team effort of the life that we get to create together. And then it really slashes resentment and bitterness and competition and all of the things that could thwart, you know, a marriage and cause dissension in it. I think that when you have that unified front, that then financially you really can go further faster. So in my 2 cents on that. Now, number 5, which is creating sustainability, because that's such a buzzword nowadays. Is that sustainable? Is that sustainable? So it really is about how do you now finalize on the numbers and then set it inside of software. So there's a centralized platform, much like when you drive newer cars these days. It lights up and it tells you everything. You've got this 360-degree view on your dashboard of how fast you're going, how slow you're going, your temperature gauge, your gas gauge, and all of that. And, you know, when you're competent with driving your car, you can get somewhere and not remember getting, you know, driving there. And you just look and glance down. And that's the same experience that I want for my clients, is that they have this 360-degree view where in the very beginning, they're paying very close attention to it, just like when you drive your car, or just like when you realize, oh, shoot, my driver's license has expired. So I'm really going to just drive super cautiously, carefully, intentionally, because I don't want to get pulled over. It's that type of attention in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, you can drive and drink a soda and listen to the radio and, you know, enjoy a conversation, and then you're you know, cruising. So that's the idea of session 5. It's how do you create sustainability where your finances now have been designed to be this well-oiled machine with, you know, all of the work that we have done up until then. And then how do you just maintain it because you're actually paying attention. What I love about quote unquote budgets is that it is like the bumpers down a bowling alley. And as parents, which are, you know, we've taken our kids bowling, it just ensures that the ball goes in the, you know, where it's supposed to go. It doesn't go in the gutter. So hence your money doesn't go in the wrong places. And when you drive, just to keep it so simple, you always drive between the 2 lines. So you always want to spend your money in the 2 lines, or else you're going to get in an accident. Unless, you know, you intentionally created this detour that, hey, we're going to Hawaii this time, so we're going to spend this way. And that's okay because you plan for it. And there's just such peace of mind, such control, such certainty and confidence, without guilt or shame or anything, with how you're handling your finances. And that's the foundation that I help my clients build when we work together. Two,
That's awesome.
later on, then build like the next story, then the next story. And then we're in a 10-story, high rise, because we've been able to stack on top of that with investments and rental properties and anything with real estate, I think, and so on and so forth. So that's it.
That's awesome.